It's time for a reality check.
We're here to deconstruct health and fitness trends and provide tangible advice so you can become 1% better with each choice starting today.
So today we are going to be talking about metabolisms. So
our favorite topic.
Yeah. Is your metabolism really broken? Do you have a slow metabolism? We're going to let
your
you know.
metabolism break? First of all, do you need to repair it? We're going to talk about all the things.
Yeah. So those are things we're seeing out there a lot. And this is what we do. Metabolism adaptation is our thing. So, all right. So first we'll talk about what is our metabolism, Jill?
Where do we start? I'm just going to word vomit this whole episode.
Let's do it.
Because I love this topic so much.
So our metabolism is all of these different chemical interactions in our body that keep us alive. Okay. Yeah. So when we talk about how our metabolism affects our ability to break down and process and burn calories, food, your metabolism cannot break. Okay. So it can adapt. It can we can make it faster. We can slow it down based on the inputs that you are giving it. But your metabolism is not broken, okay? It is adapting to whatever inputs you are giving it. So I guess we can talk about like TDEE and how our body is burning calories in so many different ways throughout a day.
So I think an important part of this topic is to understand, and you may have heard this acronym before, TDEE, or your total daily energy expenditure. And this essentially is broken down into 4 categories or 4 ways that we are burning calories on a day-to-day basis. And we're going to break down how they're made up, what they are, how to maximize them, and all of the things, right? So the 4 components are BMR, or your basal metabolic rate, which makes up around 70% of your TDE, which is the biggest component. We also have your NEAT, or your non-exercise adaptive thermogenesis, which is any movement outside of your structured exercise that you're doing. And that makes up around 15-20%, I would say. Jess, is that kind of what you go off of too?
Yeah, I usually go off of about 15% for that.
Cool, for your NEAT. And then you've got your exercise activity, which is, you guys are going to be pretty surprised, and we're going to get into this, but exercise is literally just your structured exercise and workouts that you're doing, makes up 5% of your TDE, maybe 5 to 10%. And then the 4th component is your TEF, which is the thermic effect of food. And it is literally burning calories to process the calories that you have coming in. And we're going to break down some nuances there on how to maximize that too. So this is a big topic, and one we're super excited for. So hopefully this episode isn't too long.
Yeah. So, okay. As you just heard Jill explain, like the BMR, our base metabolic rate, makes up to 70% of the calories that we burn on a given day.
Yes.
Base metabolic rate is the energy our body's burning just to stay alive, to operate our organs, for our brain to function. If we're an absolute couch potato doing nothing, okay? So I will always recommend, if somebody reaches out to me randomly and says, oh, I saw this macro calculator, should I be at this calorie amount? Whatever you do, never go below your BMR, okay? That's not taking into account the fact that you're like living and actually playing with your kids and doing stuff and exercising.
Breathing, moving, anything.
So we're going to talk to you about how to naturally speed up your BMR, your base metabolic rate, so that you can burn more calories all the time, even when you're not exercising, because that's 70% of the equation here. And a lot of people, I think, like, especially, we have a lot of clients who come to us and they're like, I've been counting my calories and here's how many calories I'm burning during my exercise and this and that. And I'm like, whoa. We do not care how many calories you burn during your exercise. Not because it doesn't count. You are burning some calories during that, but there's 4 different ways that you're burning calories all the time. So they are not created equal. Like calories in, we can count to, like, it's an estimate to some extent, but we're counting to the best of our abilities, calories that are coming in. Right. Calories that are going out, it is not just a 1-for-1 ratio of calories in to now what my Apple Watch says I burned during exercise today. That is absolutely not how it works at all.
Also, they're not even accurate anyway.
Correct. So yeah, a lot of people put a lot of value on the exercise activity calories burn. And that is, like Jill said, it's like 5 to 10% of your daily calorie burn. So yeah, we want to talk a lot about base metabolic rate and what you can do to actually speed up your metabolism.
So ultimately you have these 4 components, right, that are making up this TDEE. And a lot of times, or most of the time, women are putting an emphasis on their exercise activity, which we just told you guys is 5 to 10%. So we are putting all of our eggs in this very small basket when we've got this big old BMR basket over here that we can maximize and make our lives so much easier, give you more balance in your life, have a better metabolism, eat more food, and get better weight loss results. So that's honestly like the core of this episode, is to talk about how to maximize your BMR and also where you're going wrong when it comes to weight loss and having a healthy metabolism overall, and understanding these adaptations based on cardio or under eating or lower calorie or more restrictive diets or low carb, and really just the things that are going to influence your metabolism, and how we can get you to a place that your metabolism works for you. And you don't feel like, I use this terminology often, you don't feel like you're running through a brick wall or spinning your tires in the mud when you're trying to lose weight, right? Because I know that can be super frustrating. And if you learn how to work with your metabolism, weight loss is going to be so much more effortless for you. And understanding this topic, which obviously, like we said, is our favorite, is the key to sustainable and forever weight loss. And also not just weight loss, but fat loss and building muscle and looking toned and all of those things that most women want when they come to us, right? So Jess, I know that we talk a lot about muscle and BMR and all of that. So let's talk about really how to maximize your BMR and why that's the most beneficial thing to focus on when it comes to making physique changes overall.
Yeah, absolutely. So our base metabolic rate slows down whenever we are under fueling, whenever we are over exercising, specifically doing cardio. So our bodies adapt to cardio to become more efficient at cardio. What that means is we're actually burning less energy so that our body is setting ourselves up for the next time we're going on a marathon, So whenever you're dieting, every time we go to low calories, you're slowing down your BMR a little bit more. Now, can we adapt it back up? Absolutely. But the problem is with most of the women that we see, they've dieted for years and years. They do more and more and more and more exercise. So their metabolism is just adapting lower, 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 lower. And they get to this point where they're like, my metabolism is just so slow. I don't know what to do. Like, it's broken.
Yes.
And I'm like, did it work the first time you ever tried dieting? And they're like, well, yeah, but now I'm older, right? And it's like, no. It's not because you're older. It's because now you've beat it up for years and years.
Cumulative years of dieting and under eating.
You have down-regulated your metabolism to the point that now it's only burning, I don't know, maybe your BMR is quite a bit lower than it was before because of these adaptations that you have put on it. So we can actually reverse that and adapt your metabolism back up so that when you diet again, it works. It magically works, just like the first time you ever dieted.
Yeah.
So I use this example a lot when women complain that it's because of hormones or it's because of even menopause. Like, we have a lot of postmenopausal women who see excellent results and they're like, this is crazy. I can't believe my body's working. And it's like, it's because we spent the last couple of years putting on muscle and actually feeding you. But they compare themselves to their male counterparts and they're like, I don't know why my husband can just look at a salad and he loses weight. And it's like, that's because your husband hasn't been dieting for 10 years. So he has not downregulated his metabolism. His body has a
healthy metabolic adaptation. Yes.
So as soon as he eats a little bit less, his body does adapt because it's not adapted down here like yours is. So we can do the same thing that he's doing. But it takes time to build back up, right? If you've been dieting for 10, 15 years, it might take us 3 to 6 months of going to higher and higher calories to eventually get your body to respond well again to a diet. But I promise you, we can do it.
Yeah. So you absolutely can have a slow metabolism. It can be sluggish. And when you have a low metabolism, your hormones can drop down and everything feels messy and feels really hard, right? So it can't break. There's not a mechanism inside that breaks and you're just done for forever. But it essentially slows down or down regulates, and then we just speed it back up, right? And there's methods to both of those. And, we talk about this in every episode in some fashion because it truly is at the core of what we do. But there are ways to increase your metabolism and there are ways that you decrease your metabolism. And a lot of times women are coming to us under eating carbs and protein specifically, and they're over exercising. And sometimes when I say that term, I feel like people ask me, well, what is over exercising? And it's a great question. And my answer is, it depends. But ultimately, people are often doing working out excessively every day. They're focusing on, like Jess mentioned, just their calorie burn or how much they sweat or how sore they are after. And that's not the markers that we want to go off of or what we're looking for, right? Or the way that we want to judge our efforts.
And let me talk general population too, because that's the group that I tended to work with when I was an in-person trainer.
Yeah.
The clientele that we work with now are primarily women who are like, nothing's working. I've been exercising. I've been dieting.
Yes.
The population I worked with before who was in the gym who had slow metabolisms were overweight and overate. But the reason their metabolisms are slow is from a sedentary lifestyle, not getting enough nutrients. So they're eating plenty of calories, but they're still not getting enough protein to sustain healthy muscle mass, and they're not weight training.
Yes. And, we use the term body composition, and that's important to understand too, because I've definitely talked to women who have said they reached their goal weight and they were like, I still wasn't happy, or my pants still didn't fit the way that I wanted them to. So, we'll kind of talk about that too. But, when you have years of eating low calorie, and that's going to be in quotes, but really sub 2,000 calories, right? Is that like bottom dollar average number we tend to throw out there? And that's not like a scientific magic number of if you eat 2,000 plus, you're fine. But generally speaking, that's what we're looking for, is every woman should be eating at least 2,000 calories a day to maintain. And if you say, well, that's too much for me, or that's a calorie surplus, well, then you probably don't move your body enough, if I'm being honest with you, just how much you should be moving as a healthy individual and human. But ultimately, when you have a sluggish metabolism and then we throw cardio on top of it, or we throw F45 classes on top of it, or we throw Orange Theory, these are stressors, for one, that we are adding on to our body already being under a good amount of stress because we're under eating and not giving it enough of the nutrients it needs. So now it's more stress, but we're also sending endurance signals. And like Jess said, we are primarily burning typically muscle in these scenarios because we're not getting enough protein, we're not lifting heavy enough, and we're just not giving our body enough of the calories it needs. So we are actually further decreasing our metabolism in that scenario. So the combination of undereating and oversexing it.
We're keeping this podcast fun. Undereating and overexercise.
Yeah,
I think we can keep it. Undereating and overexercise is doing you a disservice. And then what happens when you come off of that plan of undereating and overexercise is you gain more weight back than when you started, because you have downregulated your metabolism. So I want to give a couple client examples of wins that I see as a trainer that my clients might not have seen if I wasn't saying, hey, look at how your body's adapting.
Yeah.
So I had a woman who I trained in person. I think she's 66. She was definitely over 60. Every year for a few months, she would go to Florida. She trained with another trainer before me, and they tended to do higher intensity stuff, circuit training, cardio type workouts. We started training together and doing heavy compound lifts. I was training her how to squat properly for function too, as she is independent and lives by herself. So we were doing strength training together for a year almost before her first trip to Florida when I was training with her. She told me how every time she goes to Florida, she always gains her weight back. And then she comes back and she starts training with her trainer again. Mm-hmm. She goes to Florida this time and she's texting me like, this is crazy. I've been here for 2 months. I haven't been working out and I've kept all the weight off. And I'm like, yes, that's because we sped up your metabolism. We sped up your base metabolic rate by adding strength. And I wasn't even doing nutrition coaching with her. Only by adding strength did we speed up her metabolism. Now, and again, oftentimes women are looking at this and they're saying, well, I'm not losing more weight. So is it a win? And it's like, if you're maintaining, it's a win.
It's a beautiful metabolic win.
Yes. I also have a lot of clients where when we are working on the part of adapting them out of a diet, we are reverse dieting them, or I call it a muscle building phase because we're always trying to strength train too. A lot of times what happens is their bodies don't really change, right? So maybe before they came to us, they were eating 12 to 1,400 calories and they're like, I can't lose weight anymore. My metabolism's broken, whatever. We start reverse dieting them and now they're at 1,800 calories. Their bodies look about the same. They're a little bit stronger. They have more energy. They have a better libido. They sleep better. But they haven't lost any weight and they haven't lost any inches. So they start to panic and they say, I don't know that this program's working.
Yeah.
I don't know that this program's working because I'm not losing weight yet. And I say, time out. You are eating, what were we at before? 1,200 calories. Now we're at 1,800. You are eating 600 calories more a day at the exact same body as you were at before. That means we are speeding up your metabolism. Okay. Yes. So those are the good signs that you want to look for when you're doing the right things. Okay. We are not always going to be in a season of weight loss and inches lost. And that, honestly, if you're looking for that, then we got some work to do up here because it's not a mentally healthy journey for you either. But yeah, those are some wins that you can look for. If you are able to maintain better through your vacations and through being sick and not going to the gym, and you're able to eat more while staying the same, those are all signs that we are improving your metabolism.
And it's important to know too, when we talk about increasing calories, by no means am I saying go from 1,200 to 2,000 tomorrow. Can you? I mean, sure, if you want to give it a go, but
you'll probably gain some body fat. You don't necessarily.
When you slash your calories, you lose weight quickly, right? Because if you're adapted higher, you're making a huge deficit. But if you're adapted at 1,200 and you are drastically increasing your calories, that is going to be a surplus. If you have a slower metabolism or you're down regulated, that's going to equate to weight gain. So we are very strategic when we take clients through this process who do struggle with a slower metabolism, because not only physically do we need to give their body time and their metabolism time to catch up, but also like mentally and even from a digestive perspective, you're not going to feel comfortable if you just throw in an extra 600 to 800 calories a day or whatever it is, right? I'm throwing out generic numbers, but ultimately, if you have a slow metabolism, there are some signs that you can look for, right? And weight loss resistance is going to be a big one, right? If you are truly in a calorie deficit, if you think you're in a calorie deficit and you should be losing weight and you're not, that's a really good sign. Or not a good sign, it's not good, but it's a big sign that you have a slower metabolism, right? And then if you suspect, a super common theme that I see is women Google hypothyroid and they're like, I have all of these symptoms, but my labs are fine, which we'll get down that rabbit hole another day. But ultimately, I do often see people have those types of symptoms of fatigue, or even as extreme as hair loss, or, constant bloating, or they're not sleeping well because, they're not consuming enough carbs and whatever. Right. And, if you have menopause or PCOS or endometriosis and you're hearing this and thinking, does this apply to me? It applies times 10 in those scenarios, like these things that we're going to tell you that you need to do. It is all the same advice, but just that much more important for you to adhere to it. So, those signs of a slow metabolism are, if you are dieting and not seeing the results that you're looking for, you can actually, and there's statistics to support this data. There's statistics that show that the more that you attempt to diet, the less likely you are to lose the weight, because you're just constantly in a deficit and you're frustrated and you say, this doesn't work, I quit. And then you binge eat and you gain 5 pounds and you're like, see, I can't eat any more food. This doesn't work for me, right? And that's that cycle that people get in. That's what we want to break and help you understand how to manipulate that. So
I would love to give another client example.
Yeah.
What you just said triggered something for me that I actually talked to a client about this week.
Yes.
So the clients that we do this with, like, the more time you can spend at or above whatever that maintenance is for you, the easier and easier and easier it will become for future you to diet and actually see successful results. Okay. So I have this woman, again, she is menopausal. I'm throwing that out there just because so frequently I'll have people come to me and say, well, you'll get it when you're older because your metabolism just slows down, and it's age and it's hormones. And there is so much research that speaks everything against what you are saying. Okay. So I know that used to be a belief. All the research shows that the reason your metabolism is slowed down is because of the inputs you're giving it, because of loss of strength, because of less physical activity on a daily basis. It is not because of your age. So anyway, this woman is menopausal. She came to us having a very extreme long history with dieting. During the first reverse diet, the first muscle building phase, and she is a very consistent client. She's been strength training now with us for almost 2 years, and she's very consistent with her eating too. We reverse dieted her, and the first and second time that she went through a deficit, we had to have her as low as like 1,500 to 1,600 calories for her to see any weight loss, which again she came to us because she was plateaued. She couldn't see any. So she was seeing results. Mm-hmm. But then the next time we reversed her and we dropped her, okay, she has to go kind of low again. Then she started to embrace this season of getting strong. And she would tell me like, hey, she went to Alaska. She went on a trip to Europe. During those times, she was like, I don't think this is a good season for dieting. Let's just stay at my maintenance and focus on getting strong. So she embraced the fact that for most of the year, she wasn't going to be dieting. We'd recently just dropped into another deficit. She's losing weight consistently at between 1,800 and 1,850 calories now.
Which is beautiful.
55 plus years old.
Yes.
Which is absolutely beautiful because again, another proof that we have actually improved her metabolism, but it took us nearly 2 years to get there. So this is not an overnight quick fix. It's going to take time and going through these cycles up and down to eventually get it higher and higher and higher each time.
Yes. So if you guys are hearing these examples, the overarching theme here, to increase your BMR, or your basal metabolic rate, the best way to do it, build muscle and do not live in a calorie deficit. You have to accept the fact that you cannot be in a deficit all the time. And it's tough to see. I think we have our blinders on when we are so desperate to lose weight that we're terrified to eat more food because you're like, no, I'm already fed up here. I don't want to gain another pound or I will run away forever, right? And it's so critical to understand the purpose of this, resetting your metabolism, speeding it back up, whatever you want to call it. The purpose of that is not to say, hey, suck it up. You got to gain weight before you can lose it again, right? It's just to get your metabolism back to a healthy place. Focus on building muscle so that we can increase your BMR, also improve your relationship with the scale and food, which is a whole other topic, right? That's going to give you a freedom that you cannot even begin to fathom, but get you to that healthy place and get you a healthy BMR where we're maximizing that 70% versus trying to maximize that 5%, right? And ultimately, when we have our blinders on there and we're like, I got to exercise more, I got to move more, I got to burn more calories, you're lowering that 70% capacity, right? And it's like, no, you're literally like shooting yourself in the foot when you're trying to lose weight on this. So we want to focus on increasing your BMR and not all of the nuances and not this generic eat less, move more that is what everyone thinks is the solution. So, we didn't.
And so my strength training brain wants to chime in and just help you guys understand too. When Jill says, hey, we got to put on muscle, simple ways that you can put on muscle: eat more protein. So you want to target anywhere between 0.8 and 1 gram per pound of body weight per day. That's a lot of protein for most people, but you can do it with whole foods and eat plenty of meat and colorful stuff. We want to eat more protein. And then in terms of our training, you want to follow a progressively overloaded plan of resistance training. So you don't want to superset or circuit all of your workouts. That's going to send a cardio signal. We want to try to get stronger and make every rep count. And then week over week over week, you're slowly progressing within those movements. Don't try to confuse your muscles. Don't try to change it up every single day. You want to be very strategic and progressive overload in order to most effectively put on muscle.
Also, you just triggered something in me that I feel like I need to say on an episode like this is to increase your metabolism, add muscle. And so many women say, but I don't want to look bulky. I don't want too much muscle. I just want to be toned. I promise I have been weight training for, I know Jess and I are probably in the same vicinity, 8 to 10 years, right? At this point,
12 to 15. Look at me. I'll take off I'll show you my arms right now. Like, I'm not bulky.
You are not. Also, let's play devil's advocate and say you are building muscle at a faster rate than you expected, which kudos to you. I'm jealous. Let's say that is the case. You are not going to magically wake up one day and look like the Hulk overnight, right? Like this is a very slow process. So you do not need to be intimidated by training weights, because just because you curled 20 pounds today instead of 10 doesn't mean tomorrow you're going to wake up and not fit in your clothes and be busting out of them. Please lift like you are Arnold Schwarzenegger. Lift like your husband if he lifts, because that is why he can cut out pop and lose 10 pounds in 2 days, right? Lift and train like a guy and eat like a guy. And I promise you, weight loss is going to be so much easier.
I know we just keep going with the tangents, but I can't help myself. With that, there's also there's not like fat burning workouts versus toning workouts versus bodybuilding workouts. I talked to somebody about this yesterday on the phone where she's like, I don't know, is this more of a bodybuilding thing, or like, will this tone me and get me sculpted? You can either build muscle or you can lose body fat. Okay. So during this process, if you feel a little bit fluffier as you're building some muscle, it's probably the body fat that's on top. When we then go to cut calories, you're going to lose that body fat on top and you're going to feel really lean and toned and sculpted. Okay. So those are just terms that they use for marketing to sell women classes and say, it's going to make you look toned. Okay. There's no such thing as workouts that will tone you. the goal should be always to build muscle. And then you're going to
Yes.
manipulate your food to lose the fat that's on top.
Yes. And I think too, dieting in phases is so critical, because if you just endlessly diet and you never build muscle, well, if you're doing that, you're losing muscle. So you're actually probably going to like your physique less and less, even if you do lose weight. But if you go through these periods of building muscle and living on maintenance calories, which is where you should spend most of your time anyway, when you do diet down, you are going to have a completely different and transformed physique, because you did do the sculpting, right? The sculpting that you're looking for, that doesn't come from dieting and doing, I don't know, jazzercise. Like, I hate to throw that under the bus, but you're not going to get it there. You have to train with progressive overload, and you need the calories to support that. You can't go lift weights and say, well, look, I'm lifting heavy in the gym and eat 1,200 calories, because that's not going to do it either. You have to do all of these things together to support that. And also, wouldn't you rather maximize your time and efforts and results in the gym anyway? Like, get the most out of it that you possibly can. When you diet down, it's going to be easier, it's going to be more flexible, and you're going to look a million times better.
I use the analogy. It's like you are hiring a construction crew and you're paying all this money, and then they're just standing around without any blocks or bricks to build the house. Like, you're literally wasting your time if you are not giving your body the building blocks to rebuild those tissues that you are kind of breaking down.
Yeah, for sure. And, lean, toned physique. I want shoulders. I want a small waist. I want bigger glutes. All of those things. It's going to come from you lifting heavy. I promise you, if there's an influencer sharing her random Instagram workouts, those aren't going to do it. And I guarantee you that she probably didn't even do that workout that day. You have to have a strategic and structured plan to ensure that you are progressing. You can't say, oh, I did this last week, so I'm going to do this week. And, a whole other episode on how to structure your workouts based on your schedule and how many days you work out and all that stuff, right? We're happy to give that to you guys. But ultimately, this is the best way to speed your metabolism back up, is to eat enough calories, eat enough protein, and train with intention and lift heavy, because that's what we're going to need to ultimately not only rebuild your metabolism back and speed it back up, but never have to deal with a low calorie diet again, which in my opinion is the biggest win of it all, because I love food.
And for your mental health, like, enjoy ice cream with your kids and like all the social things that come with food. You are not going to have to deal with those internal battles ever again.
Yeah.
So should we wrap it up? I think
that's it.
Did
we cover our favorite topic? Well, guys, I think that was good. And it's truly, we could talk about this honestly all day long and never cover it all, but your metabolism adapts to whatever you're giving it, right? So it's really important to understand that if you've been doing the same beach body workouts and loosely tracking your calories for years, and you're like, I don't know why I'm not losing weight, your body's probably adapted to your routine, and you gotta, and this is not confuse your muscles, change it up, do whatever. You have to give it the inputs that are required to get what you want out of your body, right? So you have to have the correct inputs. And just like every other episode, our advice is to lift heavy, eat protein, get adequate sleep, because that's important. And do not be afraid of carbs. Please eat carbs. You do not need to be keto. If you think you gain weight because you eat carbs, it's just water weight from when you cut them out, right? So again, that's a whole other episode. But lack of muscle is ultimately, and under eating are the things that are going to slow your metabolism. So it cannot break, but it can slow down. And the even better part is you can speed it back up. So I think that is all we have for you guys for this episode of Reality Check. Until next time.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.